Okay, let's just jump right in. We're about to tackle an idea that sounds like it's straight out of a sci-fi movie, but the science, it's totally real. See, a team from Cambridge and Stanford University asked this really fascinating question, and the answer? Well, it might just change how you see your online life forever. So, let me ask you something. Who knows you best? I mean, really gets you. Is it your best friend? Your parents? Maybe your spouse, right? The person you've spent years with. The answer feels kind of obvious, doesn't it? It's gotta be another person. I mean, for forever, we believe that understanding someone's personality is this uniquely human thing. It's all about empathy, shared experiences, picking up on those little subconscious cues that we just assumed a machine could never, ever grasp. That's been the story we've told ourselves. But what if that whole story is just wrong? Because according to this absolutely groundbreaking study, a computer using nothing more than your Facebook likes can judge your personality more accurately than your friends, your family, and yep, even your spouse. Okay, so the big question is, how is that even possible? To really get it, we've got to break down the two main ways you can even judge a personality in the first place. All right, so on one side, you've got us, right? Humans. We use our gut feeling, our intuition, all those shared memories and feelings. It's super rich and complex for sure, but let's be honest, it's also full of biases. Then on the other side, you have the machine. It's just looking at your digital footprint, the cold, hard data of what you do online, and it can spot patterns that our human brains could never ever see on their own. And that digital footprint, that's the whole key here. It's basically the trail of breadcrumbs you leave online. Now, for this study, the researchers zoomed in on just one tiny piece of that trail, your Facebook likes. Think about it. Liking a band or a politician or a funny page. It seems so small, so trivial. But every single click is another brushstroke in this surprisingly detailed portrait of who you are. So, how in the world did they actually prove this? I mean, how do you set up a fair fight between a human brain and a computer algorithm? Well, let's break down exactly how they did it. Okay, now this might look a little complicated at first glance, but the idea is actually pretty simple. The researchers took a massive amount of data. We're talking personality test scores and all the Facebook likes from over 86,000 volunteers. They just fed all of that into a computer model. They were essentially teaching the computer to see the connections, to learn what kinds of likes tend to go with personality traits like being open or extroverted or conscientious. But to be taken seriously, any personality judgment, human or machine, has to clear three major hurdles. First, does it actually match how you see yourself? That's the self-other agreement test. Second, is it consistent? Like, if two different judges look at you, do they say the same thing? That's interjudge agreement. And finally, the big one, the real test. Can it predict how you'll act in the real world? That's called external validity. All right, so the computer was trained. The tests were all set up, so how did the machine do? Well, the results are, and I'm not exaggerating here, pretty mind-blowing. So let's start with a big headline number. The computer's accuracy score was a 0.56. Now, I know that number by itself doesn't mean a whole lot, but get this. The average score for human friends judging each other was only 0.49. Right out of the gate, the machine was already better. And this chart really tells the whole story. See that solid red line? That's the computer. And notice what happens? The more likes it has to work with, the higher that line climbs. Its predictions just get better and better. And you can literally watch it shoot right past the accuracy of all the different human judges. Let's put this into perspective, because this is where it gets crazy. With just 10 of your likes, the computer knows you better than a coworker. Give it 70 likes, and it's already more accurate than a friend or even your roommate. At 150 likes, it knows you better than a member of your own family. And with 300 likes, it understands your personality better than your spouse does. Just wow. So, okay, the computer passed test number 1 with flying colors. But what about that consistency test? Well, it turns out computers don't really have bad days or personal biases. When the researchers had two separate computer models judge the same person, what they found was that their answers were incredibly similar. And you can see that huge difference right here on this chart. The agreement score between two human friends was, a 0.38. For the two computer models, it was way up at 0.62. I mean, it's not even close. The algorithm is just way more reliable, way more consistent. But now for the final test, and honestly, this might be the most powerful one of all. Can it actually predict things about your real life? So just look at these blue bars. That's the computer, in 12 out of 13 different categories. We're talking about everything from substance use to your political views. The computer's assessment was better at predicting these outcomes than the judgments made by actual humans. And wait, it gets even crazier. It wasn't just better than your friends. In 4 of those categories, things like predicting what you'd study in school or your likelihood of substance use, the computer's predictions were more accurate than what people said about themselves. Think about that for a second. In some very real ways, the machine knew these people better than they knew themselves. So, okay, the evidence is pretty overwhelming, right? Computers have this almost spooky ability to understand who we are just from our data. So the real question becomes, what does this mean for all of us, for our future? Well, this whole thing is a classic double-edged sword. On one hand, the potential for good is just massive. I mean, imagine recruiters finding you the perfect job based on your personality, not just a piece of paper. Or getting faster, more accessible mental health assessments. The opportunities are huge. But the flip side is just as big. This exact same technology could be used to manipulate people, as consumers, as voters, with messages so personalized they're almost impossible to resist. It really forces us to ask some tough questions about privacy and, how much we should really be trusting these algorithms. And remember, this whole incredible world-changing study, it was based on just one tiny little sliver of our digital lives. It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? If a simple list of likes can reveal all of this, what story does the rest of your digital footprint tell? Your search history, what you watch on Netflix, what you buy on Amazon, even where your phone goes every day. What does that whole picture really say about you? The researchers themselves end their paper with a really powerful thought. They bring up the movie Her, where an AI understands a person better than any other human can. For a long time, that was just fiction. But they write, this study shows that future might be a lot closer than we think. We're really standing at a crossroads. This isn't a what-if scenario from a movie anymore. It's here. It's real. And now that we know that, the only question left is, what are we going to do about it?